In the last video we did the basic setup for our newsletter within our GetResponse account. This time we're going to create a template for the actual newsletter that you'll send out. So the idea is we create the overall look of this once, and then you'll use it each time to make things quick when you are sending out your newsletter on a monthly or whatever basis you want to. So I'm back here in the dashboard of my GetResponse account, the one where we've already set up Olivia Dining as a list within here. And what we're going to do this time is go to create and create newsletter. And it says, do you want to use the new or the old? Take me to the new email creator. We will use that. We click on there. And that brings me in here. Now we can at this time forget all of this stuff because we're actually just creating a template. So we're going to come down here and then click on design message, and that brings us into here. Now we've got two routes we can go down here. One is there are quite a lot, let me just scroll down, of pre-designed templates. So if you want to use one of these as a starting point and then amend it, you can. So for example, there's one here. Let me preview it. That opens up this preview window and it shows what it looks like on a computer and also on a mobile phone. So the mobile phone view looks just like that. The computer view looks just like that. And what you'd be able to do if you like any of these templates is simply click on use template. You'd then be able to change the logo, change the images, change whatever you wanted to on there, but the overall look of it is created for you straight away. And so it's a quick start. So let me look at another one that's completely different. Look at this one here, for example. So if you wanted one that was a dark blue colour, you'd change your logo, you change all the wording, change images and things like that. So you could use that if you wanted to. What I'm going to do though is come back up to the top and show you how easy it is to start with a blank template. So I'm going to click on here. And then you get these options. So you've basically got 1 column, 3 column, 2 columns, or just nothing on it at all. We're going to use the one that is a 1 column template. So I'm going to click on there. So that opens up a window that looks like this. Now this is a little bit squashed. I've had to move it in just to fit it onto my screen so that it will get into this video, but on a normal screen it's a little bit more spaced out like this. But on the left hand side we get what the newsletter template is looking like at the moment, and on the right hand side are the blocks that we can drag in to create overall template look. So at the moment we've got a space for a logo, we've got an area where we're going to drag these blocks, and at the bottom you get the thing we've already talked about in the last video where it automatically gives people your address, and also it has an automatic link for them to unsubscribe from your list or change their details there if they wanted to. So let's have a look at some of the things we can do. The first thing would be you probably want to include your logo at the top of your newsletter. So here it's already got, as I say, a space for the logo. If we click on there, that gives us this block down the right hand side here, and you've got a lot of choices here. For example, do you want this to say view online? So if somebody wanted to click through your newsletter and see it online, they can click there. If you want to remove that, you can just simply click that. It then says, do you want to show a logo or not? If you do, you can click here to add an image. Now if you've already uploaded any images to your GetResponse account, like if you remember we already put the logo in there earlier, they'll be here. If not, you can simply click add files and then upload them from your own computer. They then stay here within your gallery so you can use them again and again. So for us, we would want to click here to use the logo for Olivia Dining, and as you see that arrives in there. If you want to change the size on that, you can do it here by simply clicking the plus or minus on the width and the height, and that will change that. If you wanted to change other things, like for example padding around the logo, you can change that there. If you wanted to change the background color, we've got a transparent background behind there. If you wanted to change the color on that, you could do that in there. If you wanted whatever image you got at the top to not appear on mobile devices, you could change that so that would happen there. So there's lots of different things that you can do with that just for the header. When it is as you want, I mean, if you're just making a simple newsletter, you may just simply want your logo at the top, you may want your address at the bottom, and whatever information you're sending will go in the middle. As before, I am going through this quite quickly, but it can be as simple or as complicated as you want. It seems like there's lots of options here on the right, but as you see, the only one I've actually used is simply bringing in a logo and putting it there. You don't have to play around with everything else unless you particularly want to. If you want to keep it simple, it can stay as simple as that, just bringing in your logo, and that goes at the top of your newsletter. So let's have a look now at what we may want in the middle here. So if we look on the right hand side, we can see the various things that we can drag in here to make a template for our newsletter. So if we want to bring in an image or some text or a button, those things are all there. And all we need to do, let me just try one of them. So we'll drag over a text box there, and you just drag it and let it go. And you can then put whatever you need in there. So for example, this is our template. So say at the bottom of the template, we might want to have something that says call to book on, and then your phone number. And you've then got, just as in any normal word processor, you can change this however you like. So for example, if you wanted that to be bigger, so you wanted it to be, say, that sort of size. If you wanted to change the font, you could change the font. We're in Arial there, but you've got all the choice of these if you wanted to. So if we wanted that to be a bit bolder, we could have that like that. We might want it to be in the middle instead of left hand justified. So you can do all these changes however you'd like them to be there. So that's called to book there. Another option you would have is if you wanted a background to this. As you see at the moment, background is transparent, but we could change that. So for example, if we wanted it to more match the color of our logo, we could have that background as black, which is obviously not ideal for our text color, but what we could, if we wanted, would be change the text color from black to white. So that then gives us, that then gives us that. So what you could be looking at is this being a footer for your newsletter. So we've got our logo at the top, we've got that at the bottom. Obviously this could be anything you wanted to do there. You could change any of this however you saw fit. And then in the middle of these, we're just looking at really creating a very simple newsletter design here. If you wanted to spend longer, you wanted all your social icons, so Facebook links and things like that on the bottom, you could do that. You do whatever you wanted to in here. If we wanted to include an image, we could simply drag that over to the middle there, and that would let us browse, find an image and put an image in there if we wanted to. There is an image of a curry. So you could put all those things in there. Other options you have are, let me come back, sections. So what you could do here is have things in 2 columns or 3 columns. So the idea being you could have an image with some writing next to it. So let me look here. Here's one where you've got more space on the left than you have the right. I could drag that over. What I could then do if I wanted to is, so that's given you these 2 columns. So for example, I could on this right hand column have an image. So that might be an image such as that, which is a smaller size, and you could then come back and, for example, have text on the left hand side. So you could, in this section, for example, decide to have this as a featured dish section. So, for example, you might want to drop some text in there, such as that. So this week's featured dish, let's have a look. We might want this to be bold, so of course we can do that up here. And then you'd have all your details about that in here, making that up. So you can just decide yourself how simple or complicated you want the design of your newsletter to be. Now, one thing I should point out is when I say newsletter, in the traditional sense of the word, if it was a paper printed newsletter, you'd expect it to be half a dozen pages or so. Your newsletter for your restaurant or your business really doesn't need to be that. I have some restaurant clients who their newsletter will simply be one paragraph or details of one particular item. So it could be a featured dish, or it could be an event, or it could be this week's offer, or something along those lines. It doesn't need to be a huge newsletter. If you've got lots of information to put in, then by all means you could put in details about all those things: events, offers, featured meals, etc. You could put lots of information in there, but don't feel that it has to be. If you've not got lots to say, that doesn't matter. You can do it as a simple, shorter newsletter. The whole point of a newsletter like this is that you're keeping front of mind for your customers. So you want them to think of you when they're thinking, we want to go out for a meal today, or we want to book a table for this weekend, or let's have a takeaway. You want them to think of your restaurant. And so by you sending them an email newsletter on a regular basis, that is what you're helping to do. So you can see there some of the things that you might want to do on your newsletter. You've obviously got other options there. So if, for example, between these two sections you wanted something that was a divider, we can just simply drop that there. Whoops, that's not in the right place. Let me jog that down a little bit. So we have a divider that sort of divides between those two sections. So you can see that line coming between there. You might want to have another one down at the bottom. You may decide in your template you want to have an introduction paragraph at the top here. So what we could do here is, as you remember, this is a two-columned area here. So what we could do is click on sections and drop in a one-column section, which will go in just above here. And then in that section, if we come back, we could just drop some text in there. Which could just say something like, welcome to our November newsletter, or obviously whichever month it is. And that could go like that. And if you wanted a full introductory section where you'll give a bit more text in there, then you could do that. So what I'm going to do is, let's just consider what we want as an actual template. So this is what we'll start with each month. So what I'm going to do is remove this here, which is just an image. Let's get rid of that. We'll keep these two sections in. So we'll say we'll always have a featured dish section, and then you could always have other text that you'll just drag in and add underneath. So for example, we may want another one-column section underneath here that would just have some text in it, and we're just going to put more information in there. So when you've got this finished, so effectively you've got a template, so this will be your starting point each month for your newsletter. Simply all we want to do is come up to the top here where it says save and exit, and we save as a template. We can then call that can't spell, let me change that. There we go. Olivia Dining newsletter template, and we create that. And that template is saved. Now obviously you can change this, amend it whenever you want to, but that is now the basis of your newsletter design that you'll use every single month. Now you can see you can make this very different to what I've done here. You've seen all the options you've got for all the different blocks. You can make your design exactly how you want to. In the next video I'll show you how you'll use this template as the basis of your newsletter every month, so that you can quickly get in there, create a newsletter and send it out to your subscribers.